County Commissioner Dan Claypool is here. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Okay, I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Weather's doing pretty good.
Weather's beautiful. Just came from Jefferson and the sun's beginning to shine. And
I was talking earlier about, we have a biking group. It's the Tuesday night biking group. And usually by this time of the year we are shut down. Well, we start a little earlier because no matter how nice the weather is, that it gets dark earlier. So we started at 5 o'clock at the trail there in Ashtabula. And we probably had about an hour and 45-minute ride, which is pretty much similar to what we would have in July. The weather was so nice.
yeah, I was out walking last night and it was actually hot.
It was like, yeah, it was in the 70s.
Yes, yeah, I wore a sweatshirt and it was a real mistake to do that. So yeah, no, we're really lucky that this time of year that you know, it's not snowing. It was snowing on the ground this weekend, so.
Yeah, my big debate when I go out running or biking or whatever is, what am I going to wear? Because I tend to be on the lighter side because I generate heat when I'm active. And I was saying that Saturday I decided I would wear something a little warmer, and halfway out, about 2.5 miles into my run, it started to snow big time, and the snow was stinging and all. And I was saying, oh, I'm glad I'm not out here in a t-shirt. And then last night I chose light, and it was good.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we're pretty lucky. We better cherish these days because it won't be too long. Things will change, and we'll have to move on.
Right.
We'll be looking for spring.
Yeah, it'll come. I don't know. Winter always comes. My mind just is difficult to adjust. When it's Thanksgiving, I'm still thinking it ought to be summer, and it's just this winter weather. In fact, with my biking group, we were supposed to have our annual ride around Harpersfield, and we lunch out there amongst the wineries and all. And when we were looking at the forecast and Friday afternoon, it's going to be 42 degrees, but if we bundle up, we can still ride. And then we're going to have rain, and oh, that's not good. And all of a sudden it said, snow accumulate. The snow is not expected to accumulate. All right, that's it. We're not going to ride.
Yeah, I hope. I would hope that the snow holds off as long as what it's going to, and I just hope that, you know, I heard the other night on the news, Mark Johnson was saying that it may be a mild winter because of this El Nino in the west, which is great. It beats those 20-degree below zero days that I really just don't like.
We were talking a little bit off air about how we ride around a lot around Geneva State Park and the Marine, or the Lodge and Conference Center and all. And you were talking about how every area of the lake should have some kind of a path like that where people can walk or run. Or we were out at Austinburg last night. There was a woman with her horse.
Well, I just think people like that access to the lakefront, and that trail that the commissioners built along the lakefront there is used by so many people. Even in the dead of winter, I see people cross-country skiing, still walking there. But in the summertime, it's just it's a gathering point.
It definitely is.
You know, and so I just see a lot of people getting enjoyment out of that, and I would just encourage everybody to start looking at that has public lakefront property to put a trail there to allow people that access.
It is, you know, it's one of the few places you can ride along on a bicycle or walk or whatever, that you can enjoy the lake and all. My only complaint is just way too short.
Yes, no, well, and I see though, Geneva on the Lake, we just worked with them and they've just extended their bike path down Lake Road on the east side of town, so they hope to get that out to the edge of the village limits. So I just see a lot of that type of planning and that type of transportation going to be in the future. There's going to be a lot more people focusing on bike trails and bike paths and pathways along the road. You know, one of the goals is to take that cliff from Geneva on the Lake to Ashtabula Harbor. Right. And then if we could get it from Ashtabula Harbor, we get it to Conneaut. And then people would have a whole lakefront to ride. And I think that would be a huge draw for tourism and for the local people, because as you see things develop, you see more and more people out exercising and doing those things, trying to stay healthy.
Exactly. So. And it also helps mentally. Definitely. I mean, I noticed when my son lived in Rochester, New York, that everybody was out a few years ago, like 6, 7, 8 years ago, that it seemed like when I would be out running there, you would notice all these people riding and biking stuff you didn't see here. But you see, I'm seeing a pickup of that now here.
Yeah, I just think it's an evolution.
Yeah.
You know, it's just an evolution of what time and the difference of what people are looking for today versus what they look for. You know, years ago they used to look for big, you know, gas guzzling cars. Now it's just the opposite of that, you know. And now we're going into electric cars and different things like that. So I think it's just an evolution of time, and I think that we have to stay in pace with it.
Absolutely.
So I think it's just, you know, delivering those services of what people want.
Okay, we were just talking about Geneva on the Lake, and there is going to be an expansion there around the lodge?
Yes, the county commissioners have been working with Delaware North, and Delaware North is a huge international company, and we have agreed in principle to lease them property right there alongside the lodge, and they're going to invest around $3 million in a project there that will bring in some high-end cottages.
Oh.
And it will serve a whole different type of group than what the lodge serves. But
what kind of difference in groups?
Well, families. They're going to be clustered, and so that will allow families to come in rather than just in a particular room. They can cluster around it, maybe have family reunions, things that we really can't. We can accommodate, but we have a difficult time grouping them like they could do in these cottage arrangements. So we think it will serve a more family atmosphere, and we're really excited about Delaware North seeing the potential in our area that they would come in and themselves invest $3 million to be able to do that.
So it'll be all part of the Delaware North, the whole complex there, so families can have reunions, they could use the swimming pool and that sort of thing, and
yes,
enjoy the lake.
Yeah, and I think what's exciting about it is the partnerships. You know, the state of Ohio has worked with the county, and we've worked with them. We've worked with Delaware North, the village of Geneva on the Lake. They've worked with the county in helping us be able to put this project together. So it's been a project in the works for a while, but it's just coming to fruition now. So we're really excited about it. We believe that it will be up in operation by Memorial Day of next year.
Whoa!
And so,
next year?
Yes. So
they'll be working through the winter?
Yes.
How many of these are they going to be doing?
They're going to initially start with 25, and they're like I said, it's all laid out, and they'll be grouped together in 5 different clusters. But they'll be nice. There'll be fire rings. There'll be things like that will allow that family atmosphere.
Gather.
Yes, and like I said, it serves a whole different clientele than what we actually serve in the lodge, I believe.
Now, my memory isn't always good, but there was a candidate that ran for county commissioner that lost, and maybe he ran against you. And it was a one-note candidate, and it was close the lodge, and he lost rather decisively. And I don't know if that's because you're such a great charismatic leader, or if people just getting tired of the lodge, or if it was a combination of both. But you don't hear that anymore. The great lodge debacle stuff that you used to hear and all.
Well, I don't think the lodge is a debacle. You know,
no, I don't think it is either, but that's what people were saying.
It was a big political issue, and there are still strong feelings out there about the lodge, and everybody has a right to hold their feelings on the lodge, and some people will not agree with it, and some people do, and that's just the way the system, I guess, is set up. But as a county commissioner, it's so tied to the county's well-being that as a county commissioner, you have to take an interest and make that work. So you have to forget all that about before and after, because that ship already sailed.
Right.
You know, it's built. So, you know, we have taken the attitude that we have to make that lodge work and work well, and it has. And we have developed a lot of different programs and a lot of different things, and it really has brought a lot of people to the county that would not normally go. Our wine industry is just on its game right now.
Right.
You know, the Geneva on the Lake area, Geneva area, it is on its game right now. So we think that is a drawing point for a lot of things that actually occur in our county. So we're happy with that.
You got the spire, and then you've got the lodge, and that's a good 2-punch thing coming into the county.
Oh, absolutely. As far as bringing people to the county, you know, we have a lot of things, and we're capitalizing now in the Ashtabula Harbor. That we're taking tours from the lodge there.
The Bridge Street.
And the covered bridges and spire. So the wineries. We run shuttles out of the lodge, and we're adding shuttles. That's how popular they are to the different events in our county. So we're really excited about what's going on right now.
The shuttles is really a neat thing, because people can come there, they'll spend the night. that evening they can get on a shuttle and go to all these different wineries, sample all kinds of wines. And yes, if you talk to Arnie Esther, he will tell you wine is a food and it's healthy and all, but if you're a little bit of this, a little bit that, you probably shouldn't be driving, and you don't have to worry about that.
That's right. You know, we create an industry, but we don't want to create a danger.
Right.
So it is important, and there are more shuttles than just that wine. And I would recommend anybody that's going to go out in a group and they want to go through this wine tasting that they do something like that, because it's really important to stay safe out there. And we want to promote our wineries, we want to promote our businesses, but we also want to promote being safe. So
the other thing is that you're going to miss a winery if you're out there on your own.
Yeah.
I mean, they tell you, they show you, they take you where you need to go, and
well, we really believe the wineries are an anchor that we can work off of. Right now, we're working with Lake County in a joint venture of doing a Northeast Ohio branding effort, and we're in the process of that right now. We're using a woman from Kentucky that actually created the Bourbon Trail. So Lake County and Ashtabula County feels that there's, you know, although that we are in different counties, our businesses are competing for the same groups of people that are coming.
Right.
So that we can build a momentum rather than working against each other. It used to be that everybody used to look at this is ours, but I think we have to look at the big numbers and say this is all of ours.
We used to do that in city-wise. You got Con Ed, and we don't want Ashtabula, if we can't have it, we don't want Ashtabula to have it, and Geneva, that used to be that kind of mindset.
Yeah, I think that's a whole, that mindset has gone away, and there's a new way of looking at things, and like I said, you know, while we look at the county, we also have to look at the region, and we think that there's an opportunity here of building this wine trail, the same similar sort of thing, not the same thing, but a similar sort of thing as they did in that Kentucky area with the Bourbon Trail. So we're working with that, and that's going on, and we hope to have that up and running by next year, because next year's going to be a big year for us. There are people that come into our county right now and looking at what we have available, and for 1 week next year we are going to be on the international stage.
Yeah, that was something I wanted to get into. A few months ago, Casey Kozlowski was on, and he's kind of, I guess, coordinating efforts to keep add Ashtabula County into the Republican convention. Before we get to that, though, before we get off of the tourism thing altogether, so we got a phone call a little while ago from somebody that was talking about, we had the superintendent of Buckeye Schools on, and he's talking about how they're losing some students. It's a combination of different things, including the fact that people don't have as many kids, and the baby boomer generation is in their 50s and 60s and all. But so anyway, he's talking about people he knows that are leaving the Buckeye district and that they're losing population. And he says, we can't do it all with tourism. We can't do it all with tourism. So what did you say to that?
Well, I agree with him. I agree. And that's why I say tourism is an anchor, but our manufacturing groups are doing very well right now. You and I talked a little bit earlier, our unemployment's down below 5%. It's the first time it's been under 5% since I've been a county commissioner. And I think that's a milestone. But what that tells us is what we're doing is working. You know, the program that was created at the ATEC with the Impact program, where 10 manufacturers got together and they did a curriculum for the maintenance programs that they need today. And they gave that to ATEC. They bought the equipment. There were hundreds of thousands of dollars spent to buy the equipment to provide a curriculum that will train local people for those manufacturing jobs today.
We have a video on that. We have to show that again sometime.
So that's huge. You know, we just we're working with Alaterra. Alaterra is pretty lucky. I don't know if you followed that, but they opened a stamping plant in Ashtabula Township in the old ESOP building, where they are stamping out these little trays and different things out of that mechanics grass. The things that you would get at McDonald's to carry your little carriers. Instead of making them out of wood or making them out of paper, they're making them out of the mechanics grass. All of their product is 100% sold. All their product is 100% sold. They're doubling their capacity to grow. We're looking at opening another place, and you know, so those types of manufacturers are actually growing in our county.
Is that coordinated with agriculture at all here?
Absolutely, absolutely. Agriculture, Dave Marison, they're all in step with that. But that's how you can take a local product and you can grow it and you can manufacture it right here and add value to it in Ashtabula County. So those are things that we're transforming and we're growing. We just hired Mark Winchell for small business development. That's 503 used to be just a lending organization, but we want to grow that in a little different light, and we want to move him out into a small business development. We have a lot of owners of small businesses that are on the older age bracket that are really looking to get out. We need to find a way to transition those people or transition those businesses so we can get younger entrepreneurs to move in and continue those businesses and to grow those businesses. I agree with the superintendent in Buckeye that tourism is only one part of it. Tourism is a huge part, but so is manufacturing. Still stands number one. Agricultural still stands number two in our county. So we need to continue to support that, and that's why we created the business service representative. The board worked with Growth Partnership, and we have a person that's what they do is they go out and they meet with these business owners trying to collect the information of what they need to succeed, because things in business change so fast today. And the things that we were training people for yesterday are not what they need today. So we're trying to stay ahead of the curve as far as training, because probably as the Buckeye superintendent said, and I would totally agree, is education is the card that levels the field. You know, in this day and age, everybody can say, but you can't even do manufacturing, you can't do anything without a basic level of education. And that's why it is shameful that we don't focus on supporting our schools, our public schools, and focus on training our kids coming out for jobs that are available. Because it's just being an auto mechanic. There isn't such a term today as a mechanic.
No, and you can't fix your own car anymore.
They're a technician. They have to have computer skills, so that means
absolutely.
math. And, you know, everything that we do involves computer skills and things like that. So things are changing, and there's changing so fast that, but we need to keep up with it.
Well, we're talking about tourism, and I kind of like to think that, like, in August, in mid-August in Conneaut, when all of a sudden Conneaut grows by 30,000 people for a weekend at D-Day, that maybe somebody out there might say, this is a nice community, maybe I'd like to locate my business here, or manufacturing plant, or look at it that way.
See, those are huge events that people just sort of take for granted. You know, we have huge events in our county that bring hundreds of thousands of people. So you're right, tourism is a added key that would bring people here and let them look at our county. And they're amazed when they see the things that they see in our county and how beautiful it is. There are people that would criticize the Western Reserve Land Conservancy. You know, they buy a lot of property and conserve it. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. We're preserving property in our county that has a value. You know, a swamp that we look at is just nothing but a swamp. They look at it as a jewel because of all the different things that happen in that ecosystem to make that work. And those are going to be huge things in the future for us. As we go down the road, 20 years from now, I think it's going to be really important for us to look at those things and take advantage of them at that point.
A few other things I want to get into there, if I don't forget them, but we should go to a break. Okay. And, people are really missing out when they're watching this on television. What you need to do is crowd into the studio during the commercials as we talk. Because we were just talking about you're going to be meeting with the JED group with Harpersfield Township, and we have had the Harpersfield trustees on the show talking about the JED and its effectiveness in developing the area off I-90 there in the Geneva area. But tell me what you were talking about there.
Well, one of the things that we're encouraging them to do is to do a comprehensive plan of that corridor, because really and truly, we're building a sewer line, and as soon as that sewer line is done, I think that is the floodgate, or that is the gateway for expansion. Because that's really what's held that up is sewer availability. So when we do that, if you have not planned this community already, it's going to be too late to try and put the pieces of the puzzle together. So what my mission there today is to sit with them and try and convince them that planning this corridor is the way to go. And I would like to really see it's a perfect example of what could be a millennium community. And I only say that, you know, they have high-end housing already in one area. They have some industrial manufacturing in another area. They got a beautiful park down in the Harpersfield area that the county is going to replace the covered bridge there because of its age. And
really,
yes, the Corps R&B engineer is going to replace the dam there because of there's a certain species they don't want, the lamprey, that they don't want up the river. So they're going to replace the dam there. So a lot of things are happening, but I think that community should be planned in a way, if we want people to use that park, then we should make them pathways. You know, so they can walk, so they can bike. If we are going to build a business park over there, then we should plan that in a way where if they're going to live on the north side of the interstate, then let's make a pathway and let's make it easy for them to get there through a bicycle or through walking or some site of other mode of transportation other than vehicle. And the same with Spire. They have Spire sitting there, one of the largest, you know, athletic facilities in Northeast Ohio or even in Ohio.
Oh, absolutely.
And everybody wants them to use it. Well, let's make a pathway. Let's make it easy for people to get there that want to use these different facilities, and let's tie them together. And so that's what I'm going to talk to them about today. So
this is the Corridor 534 group, Sarah Bales.
She's involved in that 534 group. This is more of the JEG groups and the Harpersville Township Trustee and the city. They all work together in that area, which is great. It's a real little bee's nest of people working very hard to move their communities. So that is cool. But I just, the trustees and I, we took a field trip. We took them on a field trip up into the Menor area to show them this Newell's Woods. And this one, actually, you could be born there and actually live through your older age there because they have that. But it's a planned community, and they have a business center there where they have office complexes. In fact, one of the large headquarters are right there. And so it's all together, but it's all tied together with different. They have roadways, but then they have bike paths and walking paths. And different sitting areas. It's just a beautiful area, and I think Harpersville is just primed to be able to do this if they wanted to. So
yeah, Harpersville is a nice area, and the businesses, because I've done videos, we've had them on the show, we've had the Harpersville trustees and Geneva city manager, and they work well together, and they check their egos at the door when it comes to the JEDs. They're on their third JED.
Yes. And
they were able to get that sewer system through there. Remember the press conference they had in back of McDonald's?
Yes, that's the one that we're building right there. And we worked hard to be able to put that all together to get that sewer, and that's really good. But with that sewer comes a lot of different things that I just would think that communities ought to be ready for. And you can't move it back once it happens. And I'm one of those guys that, you know, maybe it's wrong, but I like to look out. What do you want it to look like in the next 20 years? You know, and let's plan for that, and let's make that outcome occur. You know, and the only way you can do that is by planning. And I'm a big person that believes that you ought to plan an outcome instead of just letting an outcome occur. You ought to plan that, and it shouldn't be just a reactive action.
You're talking about from one side you got Spire, and then you got the Lodge, and then you got the Geneva on the Lake Strip. So
it's a large area, and you know, we spent a lot of money and a lot of time on that 534 corridor. We did a whole study on that several years ago, and we laid out some of the basic things. And this is just continuing that effort and just doing another overlay on that basic plan that we did. We outlined what everybody wanted and what they wanted to see. So now that we're getting closer to that, and we are, by the sewer and by building Bishop Road, and like I said, there's going to be a new bridge, it's time to do another overlay and make it more comprehensive so people can really see what their community is going to look like, so they have input into it. If they don't like what the trustees are doing, at least they would have input and be able to change it at this point.
Right, yeah.
So I think there's
a lot of ramification there. You got right smack in the middle of all that is downtown Geneva.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That whole area, and that's the gateway to our county. So that's another thing that makes it important. So that's the first thing that people see. When they get off at that Geneva exit, that is the first impression of what they see of Ashtabula County.
Well, on the other side is Conneaut, and you know, we had to give an award to our tourist information or tourist board here because they fought tooth and nail to get signage up and different things to let people and to get somebody at the tourist information booth in Conneaut. And who did they have to fight tooth and nail with? Was it Darth Vader? You know, was it Lex Luthor? No, it was our own state of Ohio to get things going.
Sometimes the state of Ohio really forgets that we're up here.
Yeah.
We're up here.
Well, I think they forgot other places too, because there were other inroads or places coming into Ohio from, say, Pennsylvania that they were ignoring or outsourcing to some private group, the tourist information centers.
Yeah, these gateways are important to us because it's the first impression of what people see. And if we were going to bring someone to the county and we get off on that intersection, we get sort of used to seeing what we see, and we accept that, but they're not. They're new, and their eyes are big, and they're looking at everything. And that's what we have to take in consideration. What do we want them to see? Kind of, you get off, you see that the beautiful church that was just built there.
Yeah.
You know, so there are some good things going on. You know, but that's how I think communities ought to be looking at things. Is what does other people see when they get off? You know, you go down on that Conneaut Township Park, you get that whole lakefront area. I mean, it's picturesque. So you know, that's what people are seeing. So if we see something that needs to be cleaned up, and I pat all the Conneaut Council on the back for working on cleaning up these old buildings and things like that. They're working really hard on that because that's what people look for when they come here. They don't want to live in a community. They don't want to bring their business to a community. They don't care about the community themselves. Right. So.
Yeah. And the tourist information director came to town, and I talked to her. It was a beautiful day. It's like somebody created it the day at Township Park when she was there, and she seemed receptive. I don't know if she's receptive or she's just a politician or what.
I don't think she's a politician. But why was there a day then when Conneaut and I forget the group that bought it, but there was it was like the race across the United States or something. And there was probably 100 cars that came there.
Oh yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah, but just imagine all those people coming across the United States and all the places that they're going to stop and all the places that they're going to see. And here they stop in Conneaut. They could have stopped in Erie. They could have stopped somewhere else, but they didn't. They stopped in Conneaut. And to stand on top of that township park, and it was one of those beautiful days. It was a little chilly, but I can't remember if it was a spring or fall, but a beautiful day looking out over the lake. You couldn't have painted a picture anymore. And all those people left Conneaut with that feeling because it was really warm. The chamber was there, and they welcomed them, and there was a little lunch for them, and it was a wonderful event. But those are the type of things that people take away, and they'll talk about Conneaut. You know, they won't misspell or mispronounce it Conneaut. They'll remember Conneaut because Conneaut went well out of the way, and it was just absolutely a picture.
And they do that every year with the bike run from Pittsburgh in June. So
those events, D-Day, you know.
D-Day, because I talked to a lot of people.
Hundreds of thousands of people.
And they're all from 1,000 miles away pretty much. And this is the one we go to, or the guy that has this World War II style gun, and he shoots it off on his property. And I said, well, do you take it other places and shoot it off to show people? He says, this is the first one. He says, I researched all over the country to find the best place to demonstrate this, and I wanted a place that treats its veterans well, and I decided on Conneaut. And you just walk a few feet here or there, and there's somebody else that has a very similar story to that.
So that's a huge event, and those are the things. And when a community can put themselves out front like that, and when people walk away with that good feeling, that's the payoff right there. That's the payoff. And you know, I think our communities are doing that. You know, we have it with the harbor, we have it with Geneva Lake now, we have it with Conneaut. So I think we are putting our right foot forward.
But what you're talking about the gateway is the Conneaut gateway, or when you get off of I-90 at Conneaut, it still leaves something to be desired. I mean, you've got Love's, which has got a lot more people getting off the freeway, but they need to find a way to get them from just going there, getting their gasoline or their diesel, and getting back on the freeway.
I think with this city manager that you have now, and I've had an opportunity to work with him, I think that he's going to develop an idea. I don't know what that idea will be, but I know that he'll have some visions about how that property and how that gateway can be capitalized on, because he was one of the ones involved in that Geneva corridor.
Right.
And he had a lot of great input into that. And so I think once he gets his feet on the ground here and he does a lot of rolling, I was really glad to see Connie out pick him up. I think he's going to be a true asset to the city.
Yeah, I think one thing you have to realize with him is that he comes in and bang, he's got to find a law director, and bang, he's got to find a public works director, and bang, he's got to find a public works director because the first one quit after a week. And there's a lot of that. The Center Road Bridge goes down.
But I think the test is how he handled it. You know what I mean? It isn't the crises that he was faced with, because those crises will always occur.
Sure.
But it was how he handled it, and he was very professional about it. He didn't freak out. And he didn't go off the end. He knows how to grab those types of crises and sort of reel them in and control them. And that's the type of person you need at the helm, and that's why I'm so glad that he was chosen to be the city manager. I think he's got a lot of years of use here.
I think and I may be wrong, but I think when Phil Garshall and we were talking about the bridge thing, and it was kind of indicated that maybe somebody else, that thing just would have sat closed for the next 5 years, which would have been. So I live on south of I-90, and that is a nice way, especially with the bridge out on 20, if you want to get into town. It's a nice bridge to use, and all of the people down at the CLYO. And so, for that to have been closed, but I think it's supposed to open in November.
So that's good.
Yeah.
So he took a crisis and he was able to control it and find ways of solving it. So you couldn't ask for anybody better than to be able to do that. So again, Jim will do a really fine job, and I think that he gets it as far as planning, and he gets it as far as what people would look for. So I think Connie should have some high hopes on some of the things that he'll recommend and develop over the years. So.
You also look like at Bridge Street in Ashtabula, where there seems I went through there Monday night, and it's just amazing all of the different businesses that are there. And I guess there's some doctor's offices relocating there, and
they really did a really good job of making that a focal point for that whole area. And it's taken years.
Yep.
And it's taken a lot of hard work by a lot of people down there. But they've done it, and they got to take a lot of gratification in there. That it's just not a bar town.
No, definitely not.
We've got some very nice restaurants down there, and
you got an art place that sells art, local art that's nice, and the beach glass. And
so there are a lot of different shops that bring people here. Absolutely, they bring people here. I notice that sometimes we get some executives from Delaware North, and they go down there and they'll eat, and they're out testing the market. You know what I mean? And they got very good things to say about it. Very good things to say. They have a lot of good things to say about a lot of our areas, and they get to travel all over the world. So they get a taste of a lot of different things. So
I don't want to belabor, but then you look at like Andover and the Causeway and everything there.
See, I think people don't realize what a jewel our county is, and with Andover, on any holiday weekend down, there are more people in the Andover Village, Andover area than there is in our county as far as the population. That's how many more people come to our county. With Holiday Camp Lanes, Lake Village, and there's a couple other ones down there, that population absolutely doubles. And I learned that from being when I was at the Sheriff's Department. So Pymatumee Lake in itself brings a whole different group of people to our county. And they come and spend the weekends, almost every weekend here. And you go down to Andover, it's as busy as Geneva.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, all the little, try and get in a little restaurant on a Sunday morning down there to eat breakfast or something like that. And you'll soon see all the people that come to our county to use the different things that we just take for granted.
And it's things that are a little different than, I don't know, the breakneck Disney World atmosphere that, or that you get elsewhere. It's kind of a more laid back, a little bit more peaceful atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were one of my trustees and we were standing in his front yard the other day, and we were just talking, and we looked up, and there was an eagle just soaring around, and then we looked up, and there were 2 other eagles, and it's like that's sort of amazing.
Yeah,
that's a milestone in itself. Here we are in Lenox Township. You know what I mean? And but here's 2 eagles. But if you go down in the harbor, or you go down into the Andover area, you go down in that Harpersfield area, there are eagles all over flying. I can't ever remember that when I was a kid growing up to have that. But that means our ecosystem is clean, and it's developing, to have those eagles come here and hatch and things like that. So our county's clean. We're the only county in the state of Ohio that has 3 scenic rivers.
Right.
That's huge.
And one's behind my house, and I mentioned this before. I take the I got a 6-year-old grandchild. I got 2 4-year-old. They're twins. And this year we decided it's kind of rough and tumble going into the wooded area behind my house and then down to Connie Creek. But I decided to take them. They're 4 years old. They had the best time falling into the creek and jumping around. And
see, I think some kids miss that.
Oh yeah.
They miss that. We lived in the country growing up, so that's what we did. We would go out in the woods and we would play.
Well, that's what I did too.
Yeah, but kids miss that today.
That's why when I bought my house is because I got 4 acres to mow, which isn't particularly pleasant sometimes, but I got 14 acres of woods, and it goes right down to the creek. And so I tell the kids, I say, look, I got the best damn backyard in town.
Absolutely you do. When we were growing up, that was all my mom always used to say.
Yeah.
Would you guys just go outside and play?
Yeah.
Go outside and play. That was her whole thing. She would push us outside to go outside and play. I don't know if it was to tire us out or whatever, but I don't know if the kids experience that same thing as what we did, and I think that's changed society a lot.
But I think they are willing to. Like my grandkids, if you stick them in the house, pretty soon they're on their iPads and they got their heads down. But you take them outside, and they react to it. And I'm thinking of there is in the summertime, the principal at Lakeshore Elementary here in Conneaut, they have a playground program. Each morning, like it starts at 8 o'clock in the morning, goes till noon, and then they have a lunch or something, they have a snack for them, and they play different games and basketball inside and different whatever games outside and run around in the fields and stuff. And he says that those kids, they're there at 7:15, 7:30 in the morning, they can't wait to get going. So I think the kids are receptive to that sort of thing. They just have to have somewhere to go or something,
Oh, I think you're right. My wife and I just come back from vacation. And we had a great time, but we were outside the country. We were down in the Caribbean, and you can't have a phone because you can't get phone service, and there's no emails. I just wonder how many kids could do that.
Yeah.
For me, at my age, to get rid of a phone for a week is a vacation.
Right.
But I just you see all the kids out there and the different people that are just, if they're in a restaurant, they're not talking, they're on their phone.
Yeah, you got 4 people and they're all on their phones. I guess communicating with 4 other people. At least, hopefully they are. Hopefully they're not communicating with the people with them.
but there's a TV commercial where the father's in the center and then there's 2 sisters, and he says, "Are you texting?" And they say, "Well, yes." And they're just texting one another. And that's sort of a different way to communicate, but it's it's not really bad to put those phones down, shut them off, and go away and just take a vacation from all that. I don't think that you need to be that communicated or that hooked up to be able to do that.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I want to get back a little bit. Because I make the same observations all the time, but the causeway there in Andover, and there are places to park, to fish, or look at the lake or whatever. And when I see that, I think, this is Ashtabula County. You can just go there and park. If this was someplace else, it would be $7 an hour to park there to do the fishing or to look. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can just, Township Park, look at the lake, have your kids play on the swings and stuff, go swimming, Lakeshore Park, Walnut Beach. You can do all of that. You can walk up and down Geneva on the lake and entertain yourself just doing that, and it doesn't.
Doesn't cost you anything.
No.
No, we have a couple, Walnut Beach, in Ashtabula. probably one of the most premier beaches. You know, Cognac got a beautiful beach. You know, Geneva's got a beautiful beach. You know, people go all over the world to go to beaches, but we have some of the most beautiful beaches there are right there in front of us. And I just, like I said, I've always been proud to live in Ashtabula County. You know, I've always been proud when I go outside of Ashtabula County to talk about it, because no matter what somebody has, I don't think they have as many things as good as what we have. If we really just want to look around and look at ourselves in the mirror.
Two things we need to talk about. One is I wanted to talk a little bit more about the impact of the Republican convention. You're a Democrat, but the Republicans spend money and...
Oh, absolutely. I think this is a huge, huge event for Northeast Ohio. You know, from Cleveland or anywhere in Northeast Ohio. I think it's a huge event for Ohio. You know, we will be on the international stage.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Not just the national. You can't even imagine, you know. People have told me that, you know, there are hotels that are absolutely sold out right now. I mean, the whole thing in our county that are sold out for this whole event, that a group came in and bought the whole thing for all week. Because that's how big this is. We don't realize how big this is, but there will be people from all over the world watching this. So we need to be on our best behavior, so to speak, and we need to put the best foot forward. And that's why Casey is out. Casey Kozlowski is out, and he's, you know, he is the Republican on the board, and he's doing a good job out there. He's communicating with the people in Cleveland. He's communicating with this National Republican Committee, and trying to find ways to integrate some of our businesses and some of the things that we do, so we can showcase them. Because it's not just the people that come for the convention; it's the news media, and you know, they're going to be looking for things to do and looking for things to see, and we want to be able to show them our county. You know, and we want to show them the best. You know,
you got all of these all news networks: CNN, Fox, MSNBC. And if it's like any other convention, you're going to know who the Republican candidate for president is going to be, the vice president, and they're going to be looking for these other little niche stories to fill that 24 hours.
And these news media, I don't need to tell you, but the news media comes in before.
Yeah.
You know, before this, the 5 days of this convention, they're here a week before. There are a whole large group of people here afterwards cleaning up. So we need to be able to take care of all that time and fill that time for them and give them, like I said, that's one of the reasons we're working on this branding effort between Lake County and Ashtabula County, is because we believe that we can capitalize on this. That we, you know, they're not going to know whether they're going to a Lake County winery or a Ashtabula County winery, or a Lake County beach or an Ashtabula County beach, or a manufacturer in Lake County. They're not going to draw it down like that. They're going to be looking at Northeast Ohio, and that's truly, I believe, how we have to look at this. And I believe that you know, and that's why I've worked on this LECO project, this wind turbine project on the lakes, and it's a regional 5-county effort, because I think that's the way we're going to move forward. If we're going to compete, Ashtabula County does not have the resources to compete by itself out on the world stage. But if we start grouping together and pooling our resources, then we have that ability to be able to do that. So that's why I'm really glad that we're out on this. Again, Commissioner Kozlowski has been working on this, and from what I'm understanding, he has meetings there. He has people come in, chamber groups, all that type of thing that he talks with. So I think that we're going to be well involved in that, and I'm glad for that. We would be really missing a big opportunity if we didn't take advantage of it.
Yeah, I had talked to John Patterson. Casey was on the program, and there are different committees that meet, and like tourism boards, and like you mentioned, Chamber of Commerce, and you can't start too early on that. And
no, and this thing's going to be, upon us. It's less than a year away.
Right.
You know what I mean? When they first started talking about it, it was over a year. Now it's less than a year. So we're not that. In 12 months, we're going to be voting in the next election.
I know.
12 months, and we're going to be voting for president. So it's not that far away at all.
You see where they just had the elections in Canada, and they had something like they said it was the largest time frame they've had for campaigning, and they thought it was too long. It was like 78 days.
Our process needs to be. I'm a big proponent of changing our process, taking the big money out of it. It is absurd that we would spend over $2 billion, $1 billion apiece on a president. You know, it's absurd that we would spend $500 million on a U.S. Senate race, each candidate, and most of that money doesn't even come from Ohio.
No.
You know, I'm a proponent of federally funded elections. I really do. I believe that if you wanted to get back and you want to take our government over, the way you're going to do that is you're going to take the money out of it. Because right now I believe that the big money has pretty well bought and paid for the things that they want, and the working class, they just don't have that opportunity.
Yeah, that's not going to happen as long as Citizens United is still around.
Yeah,
we'd rather just take this big money over here, thank you.
No, they do, and they have the lobbyists, and they, you know, they have everything they need, because they just go in and they buy it. The NRA and some of the big groups. You know what I mean? Really, you know, we have to have a conversation on guns. You know, I really do, and I'm a hunter. I own guns. I don't believe that anybody should have their guns taken away, but some of these people, there are a lot of people that probably should not have guns. And what's wrong with background checks? And what's wrong with closing the loophole on some of the gun shows?
Right.
You know, a deputy was telling me the other day about a house being broken into, and all these gentlemen's guns were taken, and they were sold to this broker who took them to a gun show, and they were sold, and he has absolutely no record of who they were sold to. So there is a loophole there. Now, who bought those guns? Who bought those guns? And we should have a way of tracing that and making sure that you know, responsible people have guns, not these people that are out doing these shootings and things like that. We just have to have a conversation about it, and how it ends up, I don't know. You know, everybody should have input into it, but it's just we're just gun crazed. I am so glad I was a policeman when I was a policeman, and I'm not a policeman today. They're faced with so many other challenges, which is a show for itself. But
okay, we need to take another break in a minute, and we want to talk about the election itself.
Yes.
But you were a police officer, and there are people that I know that on Facebook, and they continually post stuff about guns and how wonderful they are, especially after a shooting. And one thing that he said was he was at some event, and he had something on a badge or something that showed that he was NRA and that sort of thing. And this police officer came up to him and thanked him for all he does. As a police officer, when you were in law enforcement, would you go up and thank somebody that was from the NRA?
no, I don't have anything against somebody that belongs to the NRA, but you know, when you're in Windsor Township at 2 o'clock in the morning and you're pulling a car over for a traffic violation, I want to have some sense that when I walk up to that car door, somebody is not sitting there with a gun in their hand.
Right.
And I've had that absolutely happen, because my closest backup is 30 miles away. So that you as a police officer have to make a lot of decisions within a few split seconds when you see that gun. Now, we didn't have people that carried guns like that under their seat or had a permit to carry them, or, you know, we dealt with drunks, and drunks had guns, you know, but you could reason with a drunk. You know what I mean? No matter how drunk somebody gets, you can pretty well reason with them. You can't reason with these people on drugs. I mean, they just shoot you. Just look at the news today. They just shoot you. This is just a do or die business for them, and it is so different for the police officers today than it was when I was out there. And I don't even try and compare when I was out there, because it is so night and day different. And the decisions that these police officers, and the criticism that they're under today, the scrutinism. I have told Pat this before, you know, and he's asked me about, you know, what I thought about a particular shooting. And really and truly, it is unfair for anybody to judge a police officer who wasn't there or has never been in that position. You have to be there, you have to feel it, you have to know what's going on around you and all the information that they had before you can ever sit down and judge it. And I see some incidents and I just shake my head, and you know, but on the same token, I try not to judge any of those people. I allow people that have all the information to be able to make that judgment, but it's just different. It is so different today than it ever has been.
Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe a police officer would say that, but is he thanking them because everybody's got a gun and they can shoot the bad guy, so the officer doesn't have to?
I see a lot of good people being shot.
Yeah.
I mean, I see 5-year-olds and 10-year-olds being shot today.
Yeah, look at Cleveland.
They're not even in the fight. You know what I mean? A 5-year-old, really and truly, you know.
2-year-old toddler, Cleveland the other.
He was riding with his father.
Yeah.
and then somebody wanted to kill his father, so they shot right through the window, striking this small kid. I just, I don't know what the answer is. It's a huge answer, but I don't think that we can shy away from the conversation.
No.
I don't know about the outcome, but it just seems to me as a politician, people shy away from the conversation. And there
now
has
is
to
not
be,
the time.
yeah, there has to be a conversation there, and there's never going to be a good time.
No.
There's never going to be a good time. And I would say this again, I would clarify, I am not for taking people's guns away. I think that there's nothing wrong with people owning guns. You know what I mean? The right people. But I'd like to know where all those guns go when they're stolen, because they're stolen every day in our county, and where they end up and whose hands they end up in.
It'd be nice if people were told, although I don't know, at a class or something, saying you shouldn't be leaving your gun in a purse so that a kid can pull it out and shoot you at Walmart, or some of these things that you hear about. Or I don't know, I've got some statistics somewhere here about how many little kids shoot other people or kids because the guns are lying around. I mean, it sounds like common sense, but maybe people need to be told.
Well, I read these posts out on Facebook and things, but I was there, and I thank the good Lord for never putting me in a position where I had to shoot somebody. That's a pretty serious thing in this life. We take that by making these posts, and I read these posts, where these people say, I would do this or I would do that, and if somebody had a gun, they would do this. That's a pretty serious thing to take somebody's life. You know what I mean? And I just think sometimes we sort of take that for granted, that maybe it isn't that big a deal. I mean, well, I would just shoot that person for this. Well, okay, let's think about that. I mean, it used to be the last alternative.
Right.
But sometimes, we put it out on the first alternative. And I just believe there has to be a conversation. So that's it.
We need to take one more break, and then we'll talk about the conversation, and we'll let you get going. And we're going to let you go pretty soon, but we want to talk a little bit about the election, issues 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, I hope people don't take this as an election that doesn't mean a lot, because actually in Ohio, that those 3 issues will define the way Ohio will go over the next several years. Issue 1 just deals with gerrymandering, and I think that Ashtabula County is a poster child for gerrymandering. When they took the southern tier of our county and gave it to Trumbull County, and then they gave us a small portion of Geauga County, which is absolutely the opposite of what Ashtabula County is.
It's a heavily Republican part of Geauga County.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Chardon City is a very Republican, and it was all done for political reasons, and it's just wrong. And this committee is a bipartisan committee that has citizens on it. So I think if it doesn't solve all the problems, it'll at least start moving us in a direction to make sense out of these districts. It won't make sense out of our congressional districts, because if you look at our congressional district, it goes from Ashtabula County clear over. There are strips of it, or small areas of it. It goes clear over to Berea. And then in the southern, it goes clear down into the Portage County, but there's just slivers that connect it. And they carve these areas out so they're politically correct for a particular party. And whether it's Democrats or Republicans, it's just wrong.
I mean, it depends on, it swings back and forth, so sometimes it's going to impact Republicans and sometimes it's going to impact Democrats.
But the only thing that it's unfair to is the people that those congressmen represent.
Right.
That's the people that are the losers out of this whole thing. You might have a Democrat or Republican being a winner, but the people that they represent are true losers. So I really believe that and I hope that issue 1 passes.
Yeah, I've talked to John Patterson, and he'll get calls from people around Andover. And I think sometimes they try to help them, but it's not even his district anymore.
Right, it's 64, the 64th district, and if you were to imagine, there's people who don't even know who their representative is down there. They believe it's John Patterson, and it's really a gentleman named Michael O'Brien, who's a really great person. But he's only got 5 townships there to represent, and to go across the southern tier of our county. And it doesn't make sense when, in fact, all they had to do is just leave our county intact. And they should do that in all those districts where counties, they should never split a county up unless they had to. And then issue 2, I think I am for issue 2, because I don't believe that these issues should be, that we've had out there, such as gambling or now this marijuana. I don't think they should be constitutional issues. I think that when we change the Constitution, that's one document that sort of is a guiding light for the state. And that we shouldn't change the Constitution to allow something that can be done in the legislature, such as gambling, and maybe the state legislators should have gotten out front on it and been a little more pliable to listen to the issue. But to change our Constitution to get gambling, gambling hasn't done anything, at least for the local communities, at least for our county, that they said it was going to do. We get about 1/3 the money that they predicted that we would get. It's not really did anything for us, but it has made a very few people a lot of money.
It's what this issue too, from what I understand, is that right now we're talking about the state constitution, and there are all kinds of these issues that come in by people that have certain interests, and they just kind of fill up the Constitution with junk.
Yes. And then it's not a guiding document anymore.
No.
And again, I think the Constitution should guide it, should not legislate. And that's what I think they're doing with this, is they're doing legislative issues in our Constitution.
And that's what this Constitutional Amendment Issue 3 is about the marijuana. You got 10 or 11 people that spent a lot of money to get it on the ballot to change the Constitution so that they would be the exclusive distributors of marijuana in Ohio if it becomes law. So issue 3, if you vote for issue 2 because you don't want the state constitution all mucked up, and then you vote for issue 3 because you think marijuana should be legalized, then you're kind of diametrically opposite in issue 3 from issue 2.
Yeah, and then everybody has their feelings about issue 3, and I think if you need marijuana medically today, you can get it. It can be prescribed, and I think you can get it. I look at from a county commissioner position, and through my eyes, and maybe that's different than other people's eyes, there's drugs in the workplace is the #1 complaint that we get from employers right now, trying to find individuals that can pass a drug test. And this does nothing but complicate that. Alcohol leaves your system within hours.
Right.
Marijuana stays in your system within days. And I've heard that, the employers are just going to have to change. I don't believe that their employers are going to change.
Yeah, you're handling heavy machinery, yes. And okay, all right, that's all right.
Yeah. This has nothing to do with who the employers are going to employ. So if I look at it from just that standpoint right there, I just think it's a bad deal. Right now it's a minor misdemeanor. There are probably people that are out there smoking it. They've been smoking it for years. That's their choice. But to legalize it and use it as a medicine, and that's the reason that we're doing it, I just think that we're going way beyond what we should be doing. And I think if the people in Ohio want marijuana, then let's do it legislatively, but let's not change our Constitution to be able to do it.
Yeah, and just because marijuana may be legal doesn't mean that your employer has to approve that. I mean, if he wants as part of your employment that you be free of marijuana, he can require that.
Absolutely.
Whether marijuana is legal or not.
Oh, absolutely. This doesn't change that, and even though the state makes it legal, it does not. The employer doesn't have to hire you.
Right.
And I think there's still going to be. There's a lot of things at risk today. Like you said, you're running $1 million machines. They can't have people under the influence of anything to run these machines just for the employee's safety.
Right.
There's a lot of factors that would go into that. So I don't see that changing. I see a lot of complicated issues when that occurs.
And you want your kid's bus driver the night before to be...
Yeah. It's just... You could just go on and on.
Right.
So, like I said, if somebody wanted to tweak the law, it's a minor misdemeanor now, and then maybe we should do it legislatively, and that way that we can make adjustments. But the Constitution, to change that, to do something like this, is just doing it for just a very, very small group of people.
They had a lot of money, they got it on the ballot.
They had a lot of money, they got it on the ballot.